buy. Not EVs, of course, but a lavish flat in Gurgaon's luxurious DLF Carmelias.
News is not just headlines, it is what impacts you. And news should never be mistaken for noise. What matters is the reality. Ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening. You're watching the News Night and I'm Deepthi Sachdeva. We have to talk about what's going on in West Asia because West Asia is on fire. It is on boil even as we speak. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is no ordinary conflict. It is a turning point in history. You have missiles that are flying right now as we speak. What kind of missiles? These are ballistic missiles. These are cruise missiles. Even the Israeli fighter jets right now own the skies. Iran has dared Trump. They say we are not scared of Trump, we are not scared of America. And Trump says that he could do anything. Anything, he says. But what is this anything? What can Trump do? Everyone wants to know what is Trump going to do next. But now, you also have Israel that has issued a big, chilling, big warning. What is that? That says the Iranian supreme leader could meet the same fate of Saddam Hussein. Do you remember him, the dictator, and how he was executed? So what is this parallel? This isn't just about bombs anymore because this is a message that no one is untouchable, not even a supreme leader. And that message again is for Iran. So where is this headed? Is this going to be the final reckoning? It's a story developing in real time. We have live updates, breaking updates coming in right now. Let's first up get you what has Donald Trump said just moments earlier when he was just speaking outside the White House. This is Donald Trump responding to what Iran has said earlier. And he says, I may attack, I may not attack. So he still continues to be ambiguous. And this is the same Donald Trump who says, I've given them enough time. I gave them 60 days. It's on the 61st day that you saw that action. In fact, he also goes on to reiterate much the same that you have heard in the last few hours, that Iran will have to go in for a surrender. He had said unconditional surrender, to which Iran had responded saying that there is no question of any kind of surrender. So you're seeing Iran doubling down on Donald Trump, but Trump saying, you can still come and negotiate. We can still have a deal. And I still haven't decided whether we will go in for this war completely or we will want to sit back and watch what will happen. And that is Donald Trump just outside the White House. We'll get you his response in just a moment. And like I said, this is a developing story. And I also want to get you 10 war updates. What is happening right now? What has happened in the last few hours? We bring that up now on our screens as you will see these war updates flashing. And this is also about what has been happening. Trump says may attack, may not attack. This is your first important update to know. We'll bring up the second one now on your screens because you have different world capitals also responding. What has Iran said earlier? Iran has said, we are not surrendering because we are not afraid of America, is what Iran has made absolutely very clear. This brings us to our third update. You also have Iran saying that the real battle has begun now. So does this mean that this is a no-holds-bar battle, and is Iran now willing to go out full throttle? Indication says absolutely yes. What is the Russia angle to this entire story? Russia has warned US against helping Israel. And this tells you where does Russia stand in this entire war. This brings us to our fifth important war update. Putin has offered to mediate. He says, I can have a conversation between the two sides, Iran and Israel. And we all know which side is Putin actually backing. Then you also have UK that has spoken on the entire issue. In fact, the UK Prime Minister has chaired an emergency Cobra meeting. Do remember just about yesterday, it was Donald Trump in the Situation Room. You also have UK now deciding what they need to do in case it's a full-blown escalation, a full-blown war. This brings us to our next big update that you will see on your screen. This is about the fight on ground. What is happening as we speak? Israel has hit Iranian internal security headquarters. Again, this is a claim that is being made, and you're looking at a lot of these claims versus counterclaims. Which side today has an edge? No one knows, but this is an unprecedented situation. This brings us to our 8th important war update now that you see on your screens. Iran's hypersonic missiles have launched their attack on Israel. And a lot now depends on the firepower. What could happen in the last few hours? The 9th update that you see on your screens, about 40 Iranian missile infra have also been attacked. Clearly, the situation does not look good as far as this is concerned. And this is the 10th important update that you must know, that Israel's cyber attack has already crippled Iranian banks. So this is a story that is moving in real time. You have very dramatic images also coming in of the escalation and much more. But we spoke about Donald Trump because Trump is where this story will begin now. And Trump could actually change this collision that is happening between Iran and Israel. So sit back and take the next few seconds to understand that Donald Trump, who was in the Situation Room, versus the Iranian supreme leader who says, we are not scared of you. You go and do whatever you want. And Iran has also, in fact, said that we will ensure that there is a retaliation. They have warned Israel. These are the important reactions that have come in from Iran, in fact, through the day. And they say we are not going to surrender. This is in response to what Trump initially had said and called for an unconditional surrender. They also say we'll stand against the imposed war. So they believe this is a war that has been thrown on them. They never wanted this war, but this is Israel and we will not get back. Let's bring in more details. Israel has made a huge mistake. Is again something that Iran has asserted in the last few hours, going on to also say that Israel is going to be punished. In spite of the US getting into this conversation, Iran saying we are not getting back. Even the US intervention, they say, will cause damage. Damage to whom? Damage at what scale? These are important questions that you must know about. Likewise, they say the US should threaten those who fear them because we are not one of them. Now we'll sit back and watch and in fact hear what Donald Trump has said. He was asked specifically the questions about Iran doubling down on America, and also when people want to know what is going to be Trump's next move.
Will you strike the Iranian nuclear component? And what time exactly, sir? Sir, would you strike it? Would you please inform us so we can be there and watch? I mean, you don't know that I'm going to even do it. You don't know. I may do it. I may not do it. I mean, nobody knows what I'm going to do. Iran's got a lot of trouble, and they want to negotiate. And I said, why didn't you negotiate with me before? All this death and destruction. Why didn't you negotiate? I said to the people, why didn't you negotiate with me 2 weeks ago? And at the end, last minute, they said, no, we're not going to do that. And they got hit. Remember 60 days? And then came the 60. 61 is going to become a very famous number. Really, nothing's too late.
Have the Iranians reached out to you?
Yes.
And what did you say?
I said, it's very late. You know? I said, it's very late.
So Trump says it is late, but still you can have a conversation. So this is Trump in his own ways. And remember, on the show, we will also tell you how the US has increased its deployment, how they have moved a lot of their war carriers into the zone, and what could that mean? And also, what is the cost of this war? But before I do that, I also want to speak of a very important aspect here. That is the Saddam Hussein parallel. What is that parallel? And why has Israel spoken about this? And why has Israel warned Iran that in case you do not back off, in case you do not go for a deal, you might meet the same fate as Saddam Hussein, who again was a quote-unquote brutal dictator. Let's listen into that warning.
באתי לכאן כדי לחזק את תושבי הרצליה ולהעביר מסר ברור לדיקטטור מטהרן, חמינאי. אם תמשיך לבצע פשעי מלחמה ולירות טילים לעבר האוכלוסייה האזרחית בישראל, גורלך יהיה בדיוק כגורלו של הדיקטטור במדינה השכנה לאיראן, שידוע בדיוק איך הוא סיים. אנחנו לא נאפשר לפגוע באזרחי ישראל, וידנו ארוכה משיגה ותשיג את כל מי שאיים על מדינת ישראל.
So what is this parallel all about? Let's quickly re-jog your memory and also look at what happened with Saddam Hussein in those final moments. In fact, these are just 5 blows to help you understand. The year, look at this very, very carefully, because in this, you could have an answer to where this war is headed. The year was 2003, and this is when US decides to invade Iraq. Baghdad falls very, very fast. It just took them a matter of some weeks. Then what happens? You have the iconic image of that icon falling. Remember the statue that just comes toppling down after you have these citizens and the US forces that ensure that that symbol of the dictator is pulled down. And also 2 of his sons are killed by the US forces. So this is just a build-up to that escalation. Then in December of 2003, you have Saddam Hussein, who's literally found in a spider hole. It was that kind of a hole. It was that tiny. And the US forces, they discover him there. He's pulled out. And the next, in the year 2005 is where he's tried for the Dujail massacre. And this is again where you had a number of people losing their lives, and you have a court listening into the entire matter, and there is a sentence that comes in. And this brings us to our next important detail, where in 2006, Saddam Hussein is executed by hanging. The end of his Raj, the dictator Raj. The end of that brutal Raj that he was famous for, his regiments. So when you have right now Israel making that comparison, and these pictures are important for you to see, and we'll run these pictures also full frame for a moment to just get that impact on your face as far as the story is concerned. One Saddam Hussein, known for being completely outlandish, known for a lot of those brutalities, a lot of those war crimes. You have the US that decides to eliminate him. How did that happen? I just told you, those last few years of the man called Saddam Hussein, do they hold a key to what could happen with the Iranian supreme leader in case he does not back off? There are dramatic images that we all remember of what happened of that downfall when the statue was also pulled away, and that execution, in fact, when that happened, and that one iconic picture of Saddam Hussein clearly looking down and out. This is that picture where he was captured. He was captured by the US forces. Remember, I just said that rat hole. And then this is that final moment of that execution. Why has Israel rigged up this reference right now? Is there a larger messaging to this? That no matter how supreme you believe that you are, but you could meet the same fate. These are chilling details. At this point, I also want to introduce someone very special who's joining us right now. We have Robert Shapiro, who's a professor of political science. Robert, thank you for your time. And as we were looking at this story, a lot of these developments. Before you speak about anything else, I want you to speak about these 2 pictures on your screens. Saddam Hussein and the current Iranian supreme leader. And why has Israel made this parallel at this point in time? Do we know what could be up Israel's mind?
Well, I can only speculate. The reason they're making that kind of juxtaposition is to, 1, scare the Ayatollah, and 2, provoke and motivate the Iranian people to rise up against their dictators. But I think this situation really is very different. What happened in Iraq, you had things going on there with the presence of American troops on the ground. You had the occupation going on there, and American forces were there to basically back up the Iraqi people. But remember, keep in mind, the Iraqi people were split along religious lines, and Hussein had his supporters as well as his opponents there. And I think I find this distracting from the key things going on here. The key things going on here, I think rightfully what you said about Donald Trump is critical as to what's going on here. And then there are other realities that I could talk about further that are much more important than this.
Interesting that you speak about Donald Trump. And Robert, just allow me a moment, because I want to widen the story, widen the scope, and also because we've spoken about Saddam Hussein and the reference. What we'll also tell our viewers is that why today you have US, why do you have Israel speaking about Iran in such a tone and tenor? And what really is this larger threat we are talking about? These are graphics and details that we'll take here on our screens. Now, when you talk of the Iranian supreme leader, why is he seen as a threat? Look at these details. Supreme control. Supreme leader equal to supreme control. Supreme control of what? He wields absolute power over Iran's military, the judiciary, and the nuclear policy. This is important about the nuclear policy. This brings us to a second important detail. There are huge, serious, dangerous nuclear ambitions that Iran today has. They oversee an aggressive nuclear program here, where you see the US and Israel looking as a threat. And not to forget the terror proxies. They support groups like the Hezbollah, the Hamas, the Houthis across the region. And clearly this is something that a lot of world powers don't like. And Robert, I want you to come in here quickly on how you have seen Iran operating, what has been the real trigger, the challenge to hegemony, and the Trump factor. Trump was asked a little while earlier about what he wants to do after Iran has doubled down on Trump. Now he says, I may go and attack, I may not go and attack. But I still think that there is this window of a dialogue, of a deal that can still be struck.
Okay, well, you've talked about a lot of things here. Now, the one critical thing with regard to the power of the Ayatollah and so forth, what's critical here for Israel and the United States are two things. One is ending the potential nuclear threat of Iran, getting rid of basically the nuclear materials. That's the first thing. And the second thing, in the best of all worlds for the U.S. and Israel, from the leadership standpoint, is getting rid of the current Iranian government and replacing it with a government that's no longer a threat to Israel in terms of nuclear threat, military threat, or a threat through its secondary actors, which include Hezbollah, Hamas, and basically terrorism against the United States and Israel. I think the first thing is easier. Getting rid of the nuclear threats is easiest because it could be done with one or more basically bunker buster bombs on Iran. So that's one aspect of this. And then the other aspect of this is the threats made by Donald Trump and so forth. In terms of what Donald Trump is doing what we've seen him do a lot. One is he creates uncertainty. He's going to do this, or he may not do that. He may do this, or he may not do that, and so forth. But here, what he's talking about in terms of doing and not doing, he's really playing with fire here. And in terms of which way he might go on this, I mean, what Donald Trump wants and what Israel wants here is a win. And the key thing to the win is getting rid of the nuclear threat from Iran. Whether it's got to be done through an agreement where the Iranians agree to basically get rid of their nuclear material and not proceed along the lines to pursue a bomb, or secondly, if not that, dropping the bunker buster bombs on Iran.
Okay, Robert, you've spoken of the bunker buster bomb, and I think this is a great moment for our viewers to understand what this is, how does this work, and why is this so critical to the conversation right now. And I'm just going to come back to you in a moment because I want to get those details up on our screen now. And when you talk of the bomb, when you talk of what possibly is the end game of Netanyahu, remember, you've heard this, and we'll try to replay this a little slowly so that our viewers can understand what we are talking about. Can Israel hit Fordo? Now, we do know that this is one of those nuclear sites that is being discussed, spoken about again and again. This is the place, and this is a geopolitical map to help you understand where this could actually go. Now, can Israel do this alone? The answer is no. It will obviously need a lot of the US support. Now, Fordo is just about 80 meters underground, so it is beneath the ground, and this is the idea to give you a sense of what we are talking about. What are other details that you must know as far as this particular enrichment plant is concerned? You will need an American GBU 57 bunker buster. Now, this is important, and whenever you will be speaking about this nuclear targets that possibly could be hit, Iran versus Israel, two very important words for you to remember is GBU 57 bunker buster. What is it? I will tell you that in just a moment. But this is something that can be used, the only bomb in the world that can be used, that possibly has the capability to strike this facility. You also, for this, you need the US B-2 stealth bombers that are used to drop the GBU-57. So the GBU-57 is a bunker buster that is going to be dropped. It is airdropped on this facility, and that can be done again with just one stealth bomber that again the US has. The bunker buster range is approximately 60 meters, and that is why it is possible of causing a lot of this damage deep inside this facility in case the US decides to use this. And I must tell you this, the United States of America is the only country that has this bomb today. Israel does not have this, it does not have the technology, and that is why they need the US support to be able to get into this option. But what is a bunker buster bomb? That is the next obvious question. So let's answer that for you. Now this is just a dramatic representation of what this could actually look like. This, remember, is a stealth bomber, and then you have the GBU-57 that has been put in by our team here. But more details for you to understand what this could mean. It has a weight of close to about 13,600 kilograms of complete raw destruction. That is how powerful this bunker buster is. It could penetrate 61 meters deep before it goes down, and then there is a loud thud, it just explodes. Again, a bomb that is called the mother of all bombs. That is the word that is used for this particular bomb. Only the United States of America has this bomb. When was this last used? This is important. I'm sure you have a question on that mind. The answer is on your screens. When was this used earlier? This was used during combat in Afghanistan in the year 2017. This particular bomb that only the US has, and which could be a game changer as far as this conflict of Iran versus Israel is concerned. It can only be, remembered, dropped by the B-2 stealth bombers. B-2 stealth bombers are only configured to hold this, and unless and until you have that stealth bomber, you cannot use this bunker buster. So this means that there are two problems that Israel right now is facing. They don't have the bunker buster, they do not have the stealth bomber, and that is why US will possibly be the only answer to how you can have Israel attacking Iran and that particular facility. And clearly, when you're talking of such a huge bomb, I want to go back to Robert before this conversation and also tell you more about the US military presence in the Middle East. But Robert, as we've discussed, and I think this was a good moment for viewers to understand the capabilities that the US has and why does Israel need the US right now to be able to get into this war and the Fordo nuclear site. But is this a realistic situation? You think that both Iran and Israel are ready for this?
Yes, I think this is a very realistic situation. For one, the Israelis have established control over the Iranian airways, which allows planes to fly through basically at will and drop bombs and missiles and so forth. And this would enable the B-2 bomber to get there safely and drop the bomb. I mean, there's still a risk involved, but the opportunity is there because the Israelis have decimated Iranian air defenses. The alternative for Israel to get rid of the nuclear materials that are deep underground is through successive, basically bombing raids, dropping big bombs, but not big enough like the bunker buster bomb to destroy the site, but rather through successive bombings with smaller bombs getting through. Or the only other way for them to get to the nuclear materials, and this is the greatest risk, would be to send commandos in and to do it on the ground. And that's extremely risky, and the Israelis would much prefer the U.S. to drop the bunker buster bomb. And in terms of the threat here is real because, as I said, Donald Trump in the end wants a win here, and he can get it through negotiating and have Iran capitulating. This idea of an unconditional surrender, that is a ridiculous phrase. Donald Trump doesn't know what unconditional surrender is. unconditional surrender means troops occupying the country like we did in Germany and Japan during after World War II.
Yes.
But either getting through negotiations, the Iranians giving up the nuclear materials, or a successful bombing.
All right. I think, Robert, in the last few minutes, you've shared a lot of important insight into how this entire war conversation could be panning out. Thank you so much. We look forward to having you again on the News Night. But before we move on, my team tells me we have more breaking updates on the story that is developing thick and fast. And on your screens, you are reading more details of what really is happening. Remember, there is a missile alert in Israel as we speak. In fact, just a short while earlier, you have the IDF that has identified these missiles that were launched from Iran towards the territory of the state of Israel, is what they say. And what happens next is that you have the defensive systems that continue to operate. They're up in place. The idea is to intercept all this threat. And the IDF now says we've identified and destroyed them. There is no reason to panic. The public, they say, is instructed to enter a protected space and continue to remain there until further notice. So even as we speak, the skies are looking at these missiles that are being launched from both sides. And like I said, what will Donald Trump do next? Could he still hold the key to what could happen? And what about this Saddam Hussein and the Iran parallel? Could this mean that this is again going to be a very, very long night? NDTV, as always, will continue to keep you on top of the story with live updates and a lot more that you need to know. But for want of time, we wrap things on this edition of the News Night. Thank you for watching. Good night.
गोल्ड प्लस ऑप्टिमिस्टिक रिफ्लेक्टिव ग्लास लगाओ, धूप की गर्मी को दूर भगाओ और बिजली का बिल भी बचाओ।
Why was there a hurry? Was it the government that was in a hurry?
I don't want to blame anyone.
Joining us today here in the NDTV newsroom.
Government cannot walk away from this responsibility.
Cricket is region of sort in this country.
Would you like to comment on what happened?
What is the condition of the injured at this point? How many people died?
What exactly happened? You have lost your daughter.
If it matters to you, if it matters to you, if it matters to you, it matters to India. It matters to India. It matters to India. And it matters to me. And it matters to me.
India Matters with Shapiro, only on NDTV 24x7. Is your business future ready? Join the 13-week strategic ESG certification program for business sustainability and growth for CXO and business leaders by NDTV, Terry and Zenora. Master global ESG frameworks, gain real-world tools, and lead with impact. Starts July 13th. Enroll now and power your business with sustainability.
As the Iran-Israel war escalates, Indian students in the crossfire.
As soon as possible evacuate किया जाए.
War zone worries grip parents. The next Indian mass evacuation ahead. NDTV at Ground Zero.
Do you really know the company you invest in? What is the real picture behind presentations and claims? Is the outlook as rosy as the company claims? Know Your Company, powered by NDTV Profit Research, shines a light on the biggest stock market movers.
from the echo of the Trump tariffs to the geopolitical tensions in West Asia. And on the sidelines, a possible thaw in the frosty relations between India and Canada. I will bring you all the latest updates from the Kananaskis G7 Summit. NDTV, live from the G7 Summit in Canada.
How often have you turned away from debates that descend into endless fights? We bring you a show where every question is answered, where every debate finds its resolution, where every story finds its conclusion, where opinions collide but facts prevail, where stories unfold with insights and trust. When the noise ends, the last word begins.
If it matters to you, if it matters to you, if it matters to you, it matters to India, it matters to India, and it matters to me, and it matters to me.
All right, viewers, there's breaking news coming in on the broadcast as we speak. President Trump's quid pro quo here. That's what it looks like, that President Trump may be hosting the Pakistani army chief because he has nominated the president for the Nobel Peace Prize for preventing a nuclear war between India and Pakistan. This is the latest some bit of information that's coming in right now. Let's quickly get in Shiv Arur, my colleague who's joining us for more on this. Shiv, this looks like a case of a transactional Trump responding to a quid pro quo that puts him in probably the best light possible.
For a US president that loves nothing more than himself and any actions that make him look a little better, a US president that has broken with tradition by taking credit for global events that he had, little or nothing to actually do with directly. This is actually a signature Donald Trump, isn't it, Gauri? And I just want to read out what Anna Kelly, the White House spokesperson, has said. President Trump will host Field Marshal Munir, General Field Marshal Munir, after he called the president to be nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize for preventing a nuclear war between India and Pakistan. This is very much businessman Trump. I don't want to overinterpret what this limited statement says, but this is transactional Trump. This is him not only acknowledging that he can have lunch with someone who has made him feel good by nominating him for the Nobel Peace Prize, but there are, of course, also geopolitical reasons that you and I both know about for which the US president is hosting General Asim Munir for this lunch. But for this little statement to come out right now where the White House spokesperson is saying it's after Asim Munir nominated or called for the nomination of President Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize, it really only emphasizes, amplifies and underscores the fact that President Trump, with all his actions, and you've reported this quite extensively on NDTV World, Gauri, that President Trump, with his so far failed interventions in Ukraine, his attempt to take credit between India and Pakistan, his attempt to garner credit for other conflicts that have been happening in the world, he may actually be aiming for something like a Nobel Peace Prize and to appear larger than life and to create a kind of statesman-like legacy as an international leader. So if this is really what compelled President Trump to open his schedule and reserve time for lunch with the visiting general from Pakistan, I honestly don't know what to say.
Shiv, if I can think even for 1 second like President Trump, what would be going in his mind is that Obama got one, so there's no reason why he shouldn't get one as well. And it looks like the Pakistani army chief just played well into those I wouldn't say insecurities, but sensibilities that define Donald Trump to a large extent. It also underscores that how this transactional Trump administration needs to be viewed at and needs to be dealt with by all large countries, including India.
Very true. There is a very deep, almost clinical business-like quality to the manner in which President Trump actually does business. That transactional quality has, what admirers of Trump call, there is a purity to the way he deals with things because, it brings a sense of transparency. Credit where it's due. We all have our views on Pakistan, but Pakistani generals, their army, their ISI, their politicians have been past masters at pulling the wool over American eyes, one, but also knowing how to butter up the Americans. And I think they've sized up Donald Trump really, really well. If this is the strategy to get a seat at a table, literally in this case, at a lunch table with the president, which is by applauding him and creating this aura of admiration for him by calling for a nomination of the Nobel Peace Prize, credit should be given where it's due. This is Pakistan knowing precisely what will bring a smile to the US president's face. This is Pakistan knowing precisely, what will capture Donald Trump's attention at a time like this. This is also Pakistan that is clearly aware of the value it brings to the table, regionally speaking, in the context of what's happening between Iran and Israel. But it is this little X factor, a nomination call for the Nobel Peace Prize, knowing full well how much this would please the US president who loves himself so much, that will provide that final push towards actual handshake at the White House. And that's what's happening now.
Indeed, that's what is happening. And most of Donald Trump's Western allies would be wondering, is this why he cut short his G7 summit and went back? Because he said it was most certainly not for Iran-Israel. So was it for this lunch meeting with Asim Munir? One wonders. But, Shiv, this brings us to talk in terms of how Pakistanis have been able to sort of identify that weak or raw nerve, so to say, in the Trump administration and maneuver that. This is the same Trump who just 5 years back in his earlier term did say that here was a Pakistan who looted us for billions and billions of dollars and we didn't get anything in return, and that war on terror did not have any impact or positive result for us whatsoever. And 5 years later, they managed to touch that raw nerve of his, and here he is hosting Asim Munir. And one needs to now just wait and watch how it would play out going forward.
There's a 2011 tweet of Trump's where he is bashing Pakistan for hosting Osama bin Laden that people have put out on social media right now as a kind of a contrast to the manner in which he's feting, felicitating and hosting the Pakistan army chief right now. But Gauri, I think the truth of the matter is no one typifies and embodies the phrase no permanent friends or enemies than Trump himself. Whether it is as the US president, where he has befriended those who are considered to be traditional American enemies like Vladimir Putin, or whether it is even during his business career and his transition into domestic politics in the United States, where many of the Democrats who are actually business partners and friends of his suddenly became his political rivals, and he very smoothly made that transition. This is a man who shapeshifts loyalties. This is a man who has brought his own sort of brand of the alternate version of the truth. The post-fact Trump era is one where, the things that you and I perhaps believe in don't really, stand anymore. So I don't think he gives a damn about what anyone thinks by way of judging his priorities or judging his loyalties, because he has the confidence of a large mandate in an election and I think an over-the-top personality anyway that has been backed by a successful business empire, that he believes he can do exactly what he wants to and not really bother about international political or geopolitical niceties. And I think this little statement from the White House and the manner in which he exited the G7, even if that does have a connection with that, really stands for it.
Absolutely, Shiv. I'm going to leave it there. Really appreciate you joining us live on that story. And viewers, I'm going to play out that soundbite of Donald Trump, who spoke a couple of hours back after he spoke with Prime Minister Modi on, well, the whole saga around credit with regard to the Operation Sindoor, how it ended. Prime Minister Modi set the record straight in his conversation, 35-minute conversation with Donald Trump. But I want to play out that soundbite of President Trump a short while back because it's important, especially in the context of how Asim Munir, as we've been talking, has been able to touch that raw nerve to be able to extract some sort of concessions for Pakistan and for himself. Listen in.
Well, I stopped a war between Pakistan. I love Pakistan. I think Modi is a fantastic man. I spoke to him last night. We're going to make a trade deal with Modi of India. But I stopped the war between Pakistan and India. This man was extremely influential in stopping it from the Pakistan side, Modi from the India side, and others. And they were going at it, and they're both nuclear countries. I got it stopped. I don't think I had one story. Did I have one story written about it? I stopped a war between two major nations, major nuclear nations. I don't think I had a story written about it, but that's okay. You know why? The people know. The people know.
That, of course, was Donald Trump speaking about how that entire issue regarding, well, Operation Sindoor, how it ended, something that Prime Minister Modi set the record straight with clearly, and that is Donald Trump in that soundbite. I want to now get in Lalit Jha, a senior reporter in the White House. He's been reporting from Washington, D.C. for a very long time. Lalit, you've earlier with the PTI. You've been reporting from Washington, D.C. for almost 30 years now. Many would see that this is classic Pakistan, being able to get that, identify that one weak nerve within the White House, more so in the Trump administration, and possibly extract concessions for themselves. How do you read this this offer that Pakistanis put forth on the table, something that was too good for Trump to say no to?
You look, the leadership of Pakistan, especially their army chief, are always looking for a short-term play, and that's what has happened. They know how to play to the system. Galway in the US, they have done it for the short-term purposes. For the long-term, India has stood its ground. India has told the US and other countries, whoever have come to talk to it, that we cannot talk to Pakistan unless they start taking action against terrorists. And this is the message what President Trump intends to convey to Pakistani army chief, who is in fact the de facto ruler, that if you want to have peace in the region, I helped you once, saved you from India, but we cannot be saving you again and again. You need to stop. You need to stop taking actions. You need to stop supporting terrorists and terrorist activity. The state sponsor of terrorism has to come to end. That's one point. Other point would be about Pakistan can help some kind of assistance while US plans its military actions along with Israel in Iraq. And the third important factor is here to create a wedge between or trust deficit between China and Pakistan, because not regular that a non-head of the state being invited by the White House for a dinner, for a lunch.
But this would have really caught many in the administration off guard, simply because while at one end this may look like a very a great offer as far as Donald Trump personally is concerned, here is a president who's mainstreaming the whole proposition of meeting the army chief instead of an elected government. No matter how fallacious the election machinery in Pakistan may be, the fact that he's choosing to meet the army chief further undermines the legitimacy of Shahbaz Sharif's government, doesn't it? So all those sensitivities, those important aspects are something that Donald Trump is unlikely to, in fact, even weigh in the backdrop of the offer or the proposal that is put forth by Asim Munir on the table.
Definitely, by inviting him to the White House and having a luncheon with him in the cabinet room, his status has been elevated. But he's a practical person. He knows that the democratically elected government or the government that is the prime minister right now, he is not the actual ruler. The power flows from the office of the army chief, and that's what he's talking about. And he's trying to communicate, make deals through the person who can provide him the deals, right? Who can deliver for him. The Pakistani Prime Minister, if he is invited, I don't think no one can be sure that he will be able to deliver it for President Trump. So he's has approached the right person to get his things done.
Okay. Final question, Director, I want to ask you this is this entire lunch meeting looks all about at this stage about the possibility of elevation of Donald Trump as a leader, as a statesman, as the president, more than furthering the Trump administration's view in terms of how they want to address the Middle East and how important Pakistan may be in that game plan, in that roadmap. Are we reading it correct?
Look, if you look at the U.S. perspective, U.S. Vision of President Trump's vision of its global policy, Pakistan is a small part of, very, very small part, tiny part of it, right? And at this point of time, it might play some important role when it comes to Iran. And Pakistan, as you know, has been an opportunistic country. It has always tried to get opportunity from such incidents that happens. But I don't think so. It's going to be beneficial to Pakistan as a country in the long term. It might be beneficial to the army chief in the short term.
Right, I'm going to leave it there. Lalicha joining us live from Washington, D.C. on this prick story that's come in right now, which is that peace prize for ending the Indo-Pak war is what the Pakistanis have offered for Donald Trump. But the Nobel Prize, that is something that would be coveted by Donald Trump, if for nothing else, for the fact that he feels that he's been doing such good work and not being acknowledged for it. All right, let's get in Dr. Tara Kartha, who's with us on this, and Daniel Block as well, and we have Veena Sikri as well on this. Now, we speak at a time when this meeting is going to take place shortly. While we may talk about what could have finally led to this meeting actually taking place, whether it was Trump's interests or it was the Trump administration's interest in terms of Middle East. Either way, this meeting is important, it is significant. Tara Kartha, let me start with you. What would be your expectations out of the Asim Munir-Donald Trump meeting?
But I think the offer of a peace prize was politically very smart. I mean, let's face it, it was a nice kind of touch by Asim Munir. But I was just harking back, to 1959 when Ayub Khan went and called on President Eisenhower. And if you look at the readout, it is identical to what is going on now. They talk of, he kind of talks of President Eisenhower as the leader of the free world. He's a dictator, but he's talking to President Eisenhower. He gets a military aid. He talks about Kashmir. He talks about Indus Water Treaty. He talks about a threat of communism. And then he gives the US a base for the flights of the U-2 flights in Peshawar. So this is action replay. I think someone should put a kind of an action replay kind of thing inside the White House so that the presidents can see for themselves how often the same thing happens again and again and again. Pakistan plays the Americans very well. You have to give them credit. You saw the Prime Minister, who of course nobody, poor thing, no one bothers about him. He was like, thank you to the President of the United States, while we are saying you had no role to play. So it's a very tricky situation. I think we should say that, hey, you need a peace prize for having restrained Pakistan. That's great. Go ahead with it. We did what we had to do ourselves because Pakistan came to us. And that is exactly what everybody has been saying. And finally, now, Prime Minister Modi has said that to Donald Trump. But peace prize for restraining Pakistan, why not?
Indeed. Daniel Block, how do you read this meeting that will take place? The context of that, we're telling you right here to our viewers right now on the broadcast tuning in. The context of the Asim Munir-Donald Trump meeting may be not just about the Middle East roadmap, about how useful Pakistan may be for the administration's roadmap for the Middle East, but how useful Asim Munir is right now to further Donald Trump's, for want of a better word, ego, given the fact that a Nobel may be in the offing or at least on the offer here. Daniel, how do you respond to these reports coming in? As I said, putting the context of the meeting and also the significance of it, which is set to begin soon.
I think there are a few things going on here.
The first, obviously, is Pakistan does border Iran. And so there may be some strategic interests that the two parties want to discuss related to that. Of course, I don't think that would by itself explain a meeting between the army chief and Trump, but it is worth noting that that's going on. Likewise, I think somebody earlier mentioned China. China and Pakistan have obviously drawn closer. The United States would prefer to see Pakistan not slip